and welcome back to another episode of To Whom It May Concern. I'm your host Malak, here with my co-hosts Khawaila, Inara, and Mariam.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum.
So as people are getting back into their routine with work and everything that kind of happened, it just seems like a lot of people are very angry these days. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot to be angry about, but I feel like we need to discuss ways to channel our anger. You know, like, I don't know.
After being home for so long because of Corona, just like I need to release this anger inside.
Yeah, whether it's like dealing with your family or if you're involved with like the politics going on, there's just so much to be angry about. And I feel like we need maybe like healthy alternatives on what to do with our anger or like positive ways to incorporate anger to make a difference. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like after coronavirus hit and everyone was quarantined, people went on like two opposite ends of the spectrum. There was one end where everyone was so nice. They were like donating, giving food, like all these donations. And then there's people on the complete opposite end that will yell at you if you don't have a mask. They're just angry about the world. Or people who are just angry that they have to be quarantined and don't believe in the whole outbreak. So it's just like, yeah, two opposite ends.
And even being like in close quarters with like siblings or parents or you know, seeing the same faces, people were so like, it got to a point where people were so moody, so antsy, like, you know, they couldn't help but be frustrated and angry and annoyed. So like,
well, I feel like the first thing we need to do is realize that anger isn't an emotion that you can get rid of. Like, it's something that everybody deals with and everybody, you know, has. It's not something where you're like, oh, I'm a bad person, so I get angry.
Yeah.
Like, when everybody gets angry, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, a lot of times it's associated with being negative, but having anger, like Mariam was saying, is normal. And I think it's more about how you go about your anger and how do you channel it.
Yeah.
Are angry.
Because so many people get angry at being angry. And it's like, okay, how does that work?
a little counterintuitive.
I don't think I guess it just depends, because if someone is just always known to be angry, then that's like the negative thing. But usually people are more understanding, like if something happens and then they're like, oh, I'm angry about this, and they start yelling or something, just like for that moment, it's more understandable. Again, to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Right, I think some anger is justifiable, but some things it's just like everything. Because, I mean, I feel like you get different types of people. There's people who are, like, always angry about everything. Like, why isn't this placed here? Why is this? You know, they're just constantly, like, ready to burst.
Like, always complaining.
People who are more situational, like, it's more understanding. But even if it's situational and you've been wrong, like, that's understandable. But it's, like, how do you handle your anger? Like, do you just, like, go after the person? Do you seek revenge? Or do you channel it in a way that's more constructive?
Yeah, so are there any certain things that you guys try to do when you're angry or like to avoid anger altogether? Or like, do you have kind of like a coping or a fallback when you are upset? What's your go-to thing to do?
Well, my first thing to do is think, why am I angry right now? Because I feel like anger is not an isolated emotion. Like, it's always rooted in something. Like, am I angry right now because my pride has been hurt? Am I angry right now because an injustice was done to me? Am I angry right now because I'm irritable? Like, why am I angry? And then I try and think, tomorrow, will I still be angry? Like, is this a long-term anger that's happening right now? Or is it just like a burst of an irritation that's really getting to me? Like, if I'm driving on the road or something.
Yeah.
Although I don't really have road rage, though a lot of people do.
Honestly, Mariam, I do see you doing that a lot.
What?
Think about it.
I do, because I'm like, man, am I angry right now because they said something that hurt my pride? So is it me being prideful right now and that's why I'm angry? Or am I angry because like, yeah, am I angry because they hurt my feelings? But did they hurt my feelings because I'm being sensitive or I'm being over emotionally at the moment? Like, I try and think about my anger, and I feel like if you could put your anger into words, that at least gives you time to like rationalize it, or at least justify it so that you can move on to the next step, or that you can put it out in a positive way.
But is that after the fact? Because anger, sometimes it comes like it's like a burst that happens right away. Like, I feel like it gets the best of us. And then you can think about your anger. I feel like in the moment, some of us will just like yell or burst. and then like later have that like thought process. So for you, is it more so like right there and then, like, let me take a deep breath, let me kind of get myself together and reflect? Or do you respond and then later you're like, okay, was that justifiable? Should I have responded that way? What was that person trying to say to me? What is my current feelings right now?
I do think everybody deals with anger and responds to it in a different way. I think one of those types is explosive anger, and I don't really think I'm an explosive, angry type of person. Like, I think if I get angry, I like say something, but not explosive. Like, people.
Mariam's more passive aggressive, I feel like, when it comes to like.
No,
I'm not passive aggressive. I'm talking about, you know how when
The juice about Mariam.
you know how when something irritates you and then you keep like putting it in, and then until it like explodes, and then you're just like the little thing will set you off.
Yeah.
I don't let it build up. If I'm upset about something or something ticks me off, I say it right then and then. I'm like, hey, I don't like that. Don't do it again. And that way it doesn't simmer.
Yeah, I think that's the best way, because if you keep letting things add up, like, there's only so much one person can take.
Yeah, and then you amplify something dumb that happens. Like, someone can put their cap in the wrong place, and you're like, how can this happen? I can't believe it. But, like, that's not what you're really angry about.
Yeah, there's another reason. But I still feel like that asking yourself why, or like, you know, is my pride or whatever, I feel like that's a very, like, logical anger. Like, I don't think I'm that type of angry person.
I'm not at all.
Yeah, when I'm upset, like if I'm really upset about something, because typically I'm a very go with the flow type of person. Like, I don't think I get angry a lot, but when I am upset, I just like to like be by myself. Like, I like to like take myself out of the situation. Like, don't talk to me. Don't ask me about it. Give me some time to simmer in it, think about it, or like just be upset and get over it. But I just hate when people like poke at you, like, oh, why are you upset? Why are you quiet? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Like, for me, that's
what's the worst when you're like, it's like, you know, when you fall and then you're fine, but I'm just like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? You're like, to cry, and you're just like, I was fine until everybody kept asking me if I'm okay. Now I just want to cry.
Yeah.
Like that. I was like, I was fine, but now I don't know why I'm crying.
Should I be angry? Is there a reason? Like,
yeah.
No, I'm the same way as Medak. If I'm upset, just leave me alone, because then I will yell at you. Just that's, I don't know.
And I hate when people try to make, like, if I'm actually genuinely upset about something, I hate when people try to make it better by like making a joke about it. Like, that's so annoying to me. Like,
not at the time. Maybe after I've gotten over it.
Like, I'm clearly having a hard time and you think this is funny. That's very obnoxious.
Yeah.
Or when you're angry and someone says, calm down.
Oh,
you need to just calm down. You shouldn't be that angry about that.
Okay, but do you say that to other people when they're angry?
Yeah.
Okay, then, because I do the same thing.
But it's still annoying.
But I don't think I say calm down when they're genuinely upset about something. I say it like if someone's being dramatic or blowing things out of proportion.
But like that might be them being angry at something.
Okay, but like
they're being angry at it, and
down.
you're not angry. You feel like their reaction is out of proportion.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I'm not sure how I react to anger. You guys, how do I react to anger?
You stay quiet.
Yeah, you kind of just.
I know I'm not a screamer. Like, I don't like to yell, but I do.
I feel like you're not as passive aggressive.
Me, I don't know who I'm not.
I don't feel like I can't think of a time when Inara was upset about something.
That's because she doesn't say it. She stays quiet.
I do stay quiet. I feel like Mariam's good at picking up my vibes. Like, I won't say anything, and she's like, Nada, something's wrong. And I'm just like, I'm not doing anything or saying anything. She's like, I know that's the problem. Like,
there's a lot of things in what people don't say and don't do.
Yeah.
They say just as much as when you do talk.
Yeah.
If you're acting out of like your natural response.
Out of character.
Yeah.
But that's also a
sign.
sign.
Be a good or bad thing. Like, I feel like even for like people who like hold it in, like, I'm just thinking, I'm not sure, I need to be more reflective right now, but like when that happens, like for people who are more like quiet or hold it in when they're upset or angry, like what is our release? Like, do we go home and think about it? Do we try to figure out a way to kind of like ease that? Or do we resent people for it? So I feel like, you know, we need to understand like what is happening with that anger, because maybe is it just momentarily where that's something that's gonna like, oh, we'll move on and it's as if nothing happened, or am I holding that anger and like holding it against that person? So I feel like for people who are more like myself, who tend to like maybe stay silent or not say anything, where is that anger being released? Because if it stays inside, you don't want to have that where, you know, randomly you'll just like burst all of a sudden and you have like all these things held against that person, or more so that you are able to channel it in a way that's more effective.
Definitely. So what are some things that you guys think like can kind of set off someone's anger?
Oh, a lot of things. Cut somebody
Everything.
off on the road.
Yeah. No, like for example, I think something that really like I think one way that majority of the time can lead to like anger, disappointment or something is like when you have high expectations of people or something.
Oh yeah.
You know, like anytime you expect something, you're just I feel like you're kind of putting yourself in a difficult situation. You know, like you can't help but get angry or upset or disappointed or something.
Well, that's why I kept saying anger a lot of times is rooted in other things that isn't just anger. Like people shouldn't be looking at anger in a vacuum. It's usually, am I angry because I was irritated by something? Why did that something irritate
But
me?
usually as a result, it's a result of something. So you're like, you want to get to the bottom of what's causing it.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of the times when you look at different situations, like the same situation on a different day, you can react in two different ways.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
based off of like the bigger context of what was happening. Like I was watching something and it was saying that when you're driving, right, you're driving on a lane, acting all normal, and you have nowhere to go and there's a slow driver in front of you. You're not angry. You're like, whatever, okay, let them drive as slow as they want. I don't care. But now if you have a job interview to get to and this guy's going to make you late and he's not speeding up and he's going to like let you lose your dream job because he's driving slow, like you start to build up that anger, and that's the response that you give. So different situations can bloom like different responses.
I'm definitely that person that like gets annoyed with slow drivers. But I never honk or anything because I'm also not confrontational. So it's like double-edged sword.
You have to balance.
I just try to go around without drawing attention to my SUV, you know?
Just let it be. Honestly though, like not just different days, I feel like looking at myself through over the past few years, I've changed in what I am angry about and the way I react to anger. So I feel like a lot when I was younger, even like in undergrad, a lot of things annoyed me and I got more easily angry over things. And I would show it, like I would yell at people and like, why is this not happening ABC? Like this is supposed to happen this way, why is it not happening? And I feel like after I went through med school, I'm like, I guess my stress and everything that happened at that time, I was like, nothing is worth it. Might as well just like be a more relaxed person. Like, because I have such a high stress job. So might as well have the other factors in my life be more easygoing and not get angry over things.
Yeah.
I feel like just different experiences that people go through can, like in and of itself, change the way you react to.
That's interesting, Koila, because I feel like some people will say like the older you get, the more like frustrated and impatient you get with people, so the more annoyed and angry you become. So like, you know, older people have this like type that they're grumpy and angry all the time.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not to say that you're elderly, but alhamdulillah, like for you, growing has made you think you know become more like understanding and like that's not a big deal. Like why am I so worried about this?
Yeah, but I think that's maybe, I don't know, maybe when I'm like 60, 70, 80, then I'll be that grumpy old person.
Then we'll start avoiding Hawaii at around that time.
Like those
I mean, I think those are all stereotypes for elderly like people. Like I don't think those.
Yeah.
You were grumpy when you were younger, you're probably grumpy when you're older.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting?
Yeah.
When your anger is different depending on the person. So let's say your sibling can do an action and it's the same exact action as a stranger did, but when your sibling does it, you're just angry at them.
It's more annoying.
Yeah. Because like, why do we show less compassion and less
I was gonna say, I think there's also like a difference between being like mad and annoyed and like angry. You know, like you get mad at your sister like 3 times a day for wearing a shirt or something. Okay, but like I don't get angry. I get mad. I'm annoyed that she's wearing my shirt. But
then how do you distinguish those definitions then?
I feel like mad and anger are the same thing.
Really?
Annoyed Are you more
Annoyed is different, but mad and angry, I think, are the same.
Okay, then maybe I mean more like annoyed.
Yeah.
And then you just get over it. Like, I feel like it's a fleeting thing versus like anger is probably something that has simmered or like you actually feel, I don't know, deeply.
Not just that. I feel like when your sibling or when like a close friend or someone that you have some sort of relationship does something, it feels different. And then you also feel like I have a right to be mad because I know this person. Versus if a stranger does something, it's like you easily get over it. And depending on how like big it is, it's like, it's, you know what I mean? You underplay it.
That relationship, it's not that serious.
Yeah, like you'll underplay it for someone else, but overplay it for someone like close to you because you know them.
Yeah, or you also know that you can like lash out and like bounce back in 10 minutes, like no problem.
like you're stuck with me?
Yeah, like you can yell at, and then you're just like, okay, are we done? Like,
But that's also not good because some people say such nasty things when they're angry that they don't even mean. And now you, like, how many people, or just between us four, have said the most irrational, illogical, like, worst thing when you're angry, and then 2 minutes later you're like, why? Why did I do this? Now I have to sit here and apologize for it because I didn't mean it. But it still lingers in the other person's brain. That's why anger, when toxic anger comes out and explosive anger comes out, to where you feel like your rage is like you need to throw something in order to feel better, which, by the way, doesn't ever make you feel better. It, like,
no, there's sometimes
no,
not throwing things, I think, but like some sort of like physical exertion, whether it's like exercise or even like some like boxing or some sort of like sport. I think that is good. It's a good way to release a lot of that energy.
Putting your energy into something else. Yeah,
But
exactly.
I don't think like destruction, like throwing things or hitting someone, like of course that is never called for.
Well, so beatings are okay. Good physical exercise.
Physically moving, like removing yourself from the situation that made you angry and going to exercise can in itself be a form of like betterment. But I'm saying in the moment, you thinking if I throw something or if I hit them that I'm going to all of a sudden feel better.
Yeah.
No. It's actually funny because physiologically, your body changes when you're angry. Like your vessels constrict, your digestive system slows down, and your body's like ready for battle of some sort. That's why your face turns red.
Yeah.
And that's why if you're more angry, you are more likely to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because your blood pressure shoots up and it's more stress on the heart.
Exactly. I mean, even in Islam, we know like there are hadith that say, you know, when angry, if standing, sit down. If sitting, lay down. Like there's a calmness to just like stepping back. Yeah, making wudu is another big one. Just kind of like you said, to prevent yourself from being explosive, just kind of taking this situation into consideration and stepping back. And if you're the type of person that also find yourself dealing with a lot of angry people, or like, you know, you're in a relationship where your spouse or your significant other is very upset, I think it's important also that, you know, you like don't add salt to the wound, I want to say. You know, like sometimes when people are angry and they're just spewing and they're just saying all these things, whether they mean it or not, it's kind of best to just like not respond, you know, like to have the situation die down. It's just kind of okay to just listen and then just be like, okay, done, and just like walk away from the situation, take yourself out of the predicament.
It also depends though. Like a lot of times, like if let's say you're with someone that's always so angry, and like that can be sometimes not verbally abusive when they are angry.
Yeah.
So it's like, why, like you feel like, why am I always staying quiet or not quote unquote defending myself, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think honestly, if that's the situation that you're in, you need to kind of reevaluate the whole relationship as a whole. Like maybe you shouldn't be there to begin with, especially if you're constantly the target of anger or like mistreatment or anything like that. Like I think you should.
I mean, it's not always anger. Like let's say, not just like for a significant other, for a friend or for a sibling. Like it's not always angry. But
yeah, like, I can see that, but if it's even like every so often that the other person gets really upset, but the things they say are not acceptable, then it's not acceptable, regardless of how often or how little times it's happening.
Well, like, maybe it's not that. Maybe you could, when everybody's calm, when there's like everybody's in a calm state of mind, you can
Yeah.
address the issue. Say, hey, the last couple of times you've been angry, you've done X, Y, and Z. And I don't like that, and I think that's stressful on our relationship, and we really should discuss it and fix this. So the next time when you're angry, you can at least think about that, because it's going to hinder our relationship. Whether it be a friend, whether it be a spouse, whether it be anybody. Because I feel like a lot of times people don't communicate what bothers them. And someone will even realize that it's an issue.
Especially people who want to be the peacekeepers. So the people that tend to like keep it to themselves when like their significant other, once the, their spouse is kind of like letting it out on them, they want to keep the peace, so they might not say anything, which makes the other person take advantage of that. And they might end up constantly kind of keeping that in, which makes the other person cross the line. So like, and the thing is, like, I feel like those individuals might not even have that conversation because they don't want to like spew up anything.
Yeah.
Definitely set boundaries. Nobody gets hurt, and so like you guys have a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was saying like you should reevaluate the whole relationship. Like,
yeah, it's just like trying to balance out between not putting fuel to the fire and then also not being taken advantage of, or like being stepped on because I'm the peacekeeper.
Right. That's why I said wait till the situation dies down and is at a normal state. And when you say it, I think you, like Minata was mentioning in other episodes, when you say things to other people, try not to make it like a you statement instead of make it a me statement. So don't say, when you're angry, you do this, this, this.
Yeah.
Instead say, when you're in a situation that sometimes you're angry, I feel like I am being attacked sometimes because of X, Y, Z. So that way it doesn't make the calm situation like escalated or they're feeling attacked in any way.
Do you guys feel like you guys are confrontational about your anger?
Well,
Like,
I don't think I'm confrontational.
if you were like heated or like in that moment, like do you guys feel like you're the type to add fuel to the fire, or do you just like nod and walk away, or like how do you?
No, I in general, I like when arguments start to happen, I get like anxious inside. I like to like diffuse the situation. Like I get uncomfortable if I hear like yelling or screaming. I'm just like, what can I do to make sure like things kind of get? And it doesn't have to be a big deal. I'm just like, I feel like sometimes I could be a bit dramatic in my head.
Do you want McDonald's or Burger King?
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, let's just go both places. Yeah, like for me, I like I feel like I could sense like, oh my god, there's an argument coming, or this is gonna lead to a problem or some kind of like conflict, and I'm very conflict avoidant. So I either might try to like diffuse the situation, or I guess like stay quiet. Yeah, I do confrontation. I'm sensitive. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same, Minata. I don't do confrontation usually. I mean, if someone comes at me, like obviously, like I'll come too, I can go back and forth, but I'm usually not confrontational. And I found recently that when I'm caught in like a heated argument or something, or someone's like attacking me or like constantly like yelling or whatever, I do get also kind of emotional. Like I'm like, why are you being like this? Like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why are you so angry? I'm a very nice person. Like, I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
Just be like, not even out of anger. Like, we're just debating and the other person's just getting so heated and so feisty. I'm just like, okay, maybe I should stop conversating because this is not going the way I thought it was going.
Mm.
Really? I'm like the opposite.
Really?
I don't see. Here's the thing. It depends. I won't initiate confrontation, but I don't think a difference in opinion or a discussion / debate is like a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, you can discuss what you think. I'll discuss what I think. You can go ahead and defend what you think and try to convince me otherwise, and I'll do the same back.
Yeah.
But like, I don't mind that.
Well,
No,
see, that's talking to the point where it passes that.
Yeah, I was gonna
where
say,
you're both getting debated and now you're both angry. Now what do you do?
that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I've had like tons of discussions about the things that have happened, like Black Lives Matter and police brutality and stuff. And obviously, I don't like break down in tears because someone disagrees with me. I meant more along the lines of like when they start like coming at you, like, oh, you think like this because you're like this or something like that. That's where I'm like, okay.
I think it depends on who I'm talking to. So if it's like someone I don't even care about, and like even when it comes to Palestine and talking about like everything going on there, if it's someone that I know that is coming from a place where they don't genuinely want to learn or see my perspective, then I wouldn't even waste my time talking with them.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say it's like a family member or a friend who like we're discussing something and then we disagree and it gets heated. I think like I usually have to like tell myself to actively back down after everything gets heated. Like it's hard for me to just stop.
You do kind of you get caught in it sometimes. Like, we're not perfect. You get caught in, if someone else is angry, it is extremely difficult to be understanding and just completely either walk away from the moment, or even worse, to sit there and then have to just keep listening to it when someone else is angry and it's coming at you. It's hard.
It's so hard just to like keep your mouth shut.
And
Even though you know, like, sometimes they might be being irrational or in a mood, it's still hard.
yeah.
One thing that I'm hearing from you guys is what we say or what the other person says clearly will get a response from us. So like something to keep note is when you say something and the other person reacts in a way that's like angry, be mindful of what you're saying, because sometimes it's what we say that might begin, that might start off that response where then you become angry for what they said, but it's technically you who initiated by the way that you said something. So I think we need to be mindful is like, how am I saying something? It's gonna initiate a certain response from that person. So like we need to be cautious as to like how we say things to certain, with
that's
people.
true.
And I think also realizing that like you control your action, you can't control the reaction. So I can do what I want, sure, and react the way I want, but I can't expect people to respond the way I want them to do. Like you don't have control over other people. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of things that like parents complain about or what I hear about today is like not necessarily what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. Like a lot of people are like, okay, you may not be saying anything wrong, but why does your tone sound like that? Or why is there so much attitude? Things like that. And even though sometimes it just comes out, like you may not mean it in a certain way or whatever, but it is a lot of times how we perceive each other also in a situation. But I think we're talking a lot about how how anger could be toxic, but I also feel like anger could be positive in the sense that like it pushes you to do better.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
that's what we were like talking about before, like provocational.
Yeah.
Is that even, does that sound right, you guys? Am I saying that word?
Provocative?
Provocational. I don't know, whatever. The anger that provokes you, anger that is caused by being provoked. Okay, I can't say that word. But that's what we've been focusing on. But there's other types of anger out there that deserve a just response. Like, you can be angry that there's hunger in the world, that there's war in the world, that there's sexism, that there's racism, that there's inequality. Like, these are reasons that your anger is a correct response.
It's just
so you can be angry. I think that anger is the same thing. I think it's what we do with that energy and with that anger. That's what you guys are delineating.
Yeah.
So like someone that has the toxic anger is going to use it just to either curse someone out or have negative effects. Yeah. Versus when you're having that type of anger and then wanting to use it to change something or to change a system, that's when it becomes like used in a good way.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel like in general in society, that's crisscrossed too. Like, I feel like we hear anger, we hear they did something bad. They're gonna do something bad because they're angry. We don't think, oh, they're angry and now something good's gonna come out of it.
That's true. I was doing a project for one of my classes, and it was supposed to be like a cute, like a little 3-minute speech that I had to do, and mine was on like just the pursuit of happiness. So I was like looking through some of the research. I think it was UC Irvine, one of the UC schools was doing about happiness, and it mentioned how our world is not supposed to be all positive emotions, all happiness, all flowers all the time. It's okay to have these negative emotions like anger, disgust, or just like having those negative emotions in our life. To one, it makes you more appreciative of like the happiness and the good that you have, but then two, it also like it's just a natural feeling that you can't avoid, and you shouldn't try to avoid it. You should just try to aim it towards a good way or a positive way.
Yeah, I don't understand when people say you shouldn't get angry. Like, that just makes no sense.
I feel like it also just I don't know if that's
like dismisses.
It dismisses the person, like, you should not feel this way.
Yeah, exactly. And
or this way of feeling is wrong.
Yeah.
And like you said, Joela, everyone experiences anger and sadness and guilt. Like, these are normal feelings to have about certain situation or events that happen. So to just tell people like, life's too short, be happy, or like, I mean, I know that's just like a generally like go with the flow, don't take things to heart and stuff like that, but just that whole expectation that if you're angry, life isn't going the way you want, or if you're angry, like you should be down, things of that nature. I don't think that's healthy to kind of take into consideration either, honestly.
And also that stems with like, if I'm angry, it's my fault. So what's wrong with me? What did I do? I probably caused the angry situation to happen. And that's also negative, because all you're doing is you're self-harming yourself in a way.
Yeah, it's like blaming the victim kind of situation. I also wanted to say, or to mention, that another thing I think that could be toxic about anger is when you're angry with yourself. Like if you do something that upsets yourself, or I feel like we're the hardest on ourselves. So when we're feeling a strong emotion like anger about something that we did or something we didn't do, it's sometimes even harder to bounce back or to kind of like pick yourself up out of that.
So I think that's different. I think when it comes to anger not being good, it should be just like, it's the length of this anger. So like, let's say I failed a test because I didn't study and I was angry at that time because I didn't do my part and I failed. Versus I'm like, now I'm going to take this for the rest of my like undergrad to future. I'm just going to be angry at myself for that. Like that's when it becomes toxic, or that's when it becomes like useless. Why be angry for that long? But having a short amount of anger, whether it's at yourself or at some situation, whether it's in your control or not, is okay. It's just, again, like if you're constantly being angry, that's when it's like bad for your mental health, physical health, and where you're not benefiting from it at all.
Yeah.
Being able to forgive yourself and learning from that experience. But I would also add, like, I think sometimes being angry with yourself, I guess, in a healthy way, obviously not for like long periods of time, where it leads to, let's say you did something and you should, like, I think it's healthy sometimes to be upset with yourself because you didn't do something a certain way proper. Like, I think that's good. Let's say I said something that, because I was like, I should feel bad about that because it's going to teach me not to do that again. And it should lead me to action, whether it's to apologize to that person, but I shouldn't hold that against myself. Like, I should be like, okay, what can I do about it so that this doesn't happen again? And so I could grow from this and I don't repeatedly do this. But I feel like some sort of like being upset about a situation that you did or feeling guilty about it, is healthy with certain like situations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
What you didn't do and what you could do better next time around.
But that it's different though, like depending on what you're angry about. So let's say if you're angry out of things out of your control, like the way you look, and that's what you have for the rest of your life, that'll be different. You know? So like it depends on what you're angry about, and if like you're able to do things to be productive or to change it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear what everybody's saying is anger, we have it. Now how do we deal with it?
Yeah.
How do we make it a good for positive force to like switch it from being negative to make it a positive thing now? So how do we do that?
So like, how do you prevent yourself from doing something that you might regret later, or that's like, so it doesn't lead to a toxic type of anger? And I know Malak had mentioned earlier some like steps, and we kind of like shared Islamic ways, like make wudu, maybe drinking cold water. If you're standing up, sit down, changing your position or your environment. So like those are like things that we previously mentioned. But I've also heard like breathing exercises, counting up to 1,000 if you need to. You know, some people are like 10 isn't enough or 100 isn't enough. So you like calm down.
Yeah, taking a walk, exercising, seeking someone else, like an unbiased third party to just talk to. Like there are a bunch of different ways. But honestly, I mean, I don't know if this response can be necessarily relevant to anger, like when you're angry. But I just try to adopt the whole like lifestyle of just being more of go with the flow. You know, like there are so many things that we get angry about that just don't deserve our anger. Like, you know what I'm saying? So big picture, sometimes it's easier to see that in hindsight. Like after you're already angry about it, you're like, that was a really...
But how do you do that? Like, how do you remove yourself from being easily irritated or angry about things? Like, how do we get ourselves to be like, oh, that's okay?
So the way I did it was I changed my thought process exactly. So I kind of took a step back and had like a bigger outlook of things. So something that I guess, and then also I also met different people that weren't like me, so it made me more accepting of different things, different people, different ways of going about things. So I think that's also maybe something that helped.
I think one way to adopt that, I mean, I think for the most part, I've kind of always naturally been a go with the flow. I think that also has to do with the fact though that I'm part of such a big family. Like a lot of times things won't go my way and there's like nothing I can do about it.
And
Like
people get so angry when it doesn't get their way. Like me, myself included. So it's like when you're put in situations where like this is just how it is, like get used to it. You're not that privileged or you're so used to being privileged.
And it's understanding that like you're gonna meet a lot of people in life and a lot of people will say a lot of unintelligent things that will upset you, and it's just like, is it worth your anger? A lot of times it's just thinking like when you're in that moment where you're about to get angry, I feel like, or like you realize someone said something that upset you, just taking like a quick second to just be like, does this even really matter? Like, is what you're saying even relevant? Are you even relevant? You know what I mean?
Maturity. That comes with maturity, though.
No, but sometimes it's also like, what is that person saying? And actually listening. Sometimes we get so like caught up in our own thoughts and we're so stubborn that it's like maybe they're saying something of value. It's not necessarily what they're saying is intelligent. Sometimes it's, well, what are they saying? Like, is this something that I could really learn from? And like sometimes we're stuck in our own ways that we're just like, what is this person saying? They don't know what they're talking about. But they have different experiences that they've gone through in life that they may be sharing something that is of value. So sometimes keeping an open mind is helpful. I also think being God conscious, so like we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be merciful to us, so like we should show mercy to other people. So like think that like before you become angry, like is this response, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to be pleased with me, or am I going to get the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for responding and hurting this other person? Because you don't know what that person might have in their heart after what you've said or what you've done. So sometimes it's scary and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be merciful towards you. So in general we should adopt that characteristic and being merciful towards other people and like pardon and forgive them as well when they do something. So
another question that I ask myself a lot of times when I'm feeling really, really angry, or like I know I'm about to get like really angry, I say, man, how is this anger going to ruin the rest of my day? And if it's gonna have like why would this 2 minutes of extreme anger and irritation like ruin the rest of my day or ruin this whole situation that I'm in right now? Maybe I just need to take a couple minutes, like about a walk, sit outside by myself, and just kind of like de-escalate inside of my own self, and then come back to whatever situation I was in or whatever conversation I was in prior. So just kind of reminding yourself, like those 2 minutes shouldn't dictate what the rest of your day or maybe even the rest of your week is gonna be like, just because you're angry right then and there.
Yeah, and Khawaila kind of alluded to this earlier, but I do think that a lot of it comes with age, you know? Like I'm not that old, but like just like thinking about things now, when I think about some of the situations or experiences that upset me in high school, I'm just like, such a waste of time. And I'm sure in another year or 2 or 10 years from now, when I look back at situations that upset me now, it's like it's so insignificant.
Because your priorities are different.
Whole life. Yeah, you're right. Priorities do change, and it's just like maybe other like really important things that actually deserve your anger happen, and you're like, okay, this is where my energy should be towards, you know, versus something else that upset me.
But like maybe at that time this was your priority, so it was deserved of your anger, versus when you're older, maybe married with kids, then it's like you have different priorities at different times.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
I wanted to ask, like, I've heard a lot of moms share, like, and wives, like, I was never the type of person to get angry, but as soon as, like, I got married and had kids, I'm always I'm so angry. No, and it's real. Like, there's so many moms that feel this way, and they don't like it. Like, this was never me. How come I'm like this? So I wanted to hear your thoughts on, like, how can we help moms and, like, making them feel better or help them kind of get themselves, you know, kind of control their anger.
I honestly think that
I mean, we're not kids, but we're, you know,
I think that
children.
anger stems from agitation of not taking the times for themselves, and then always putting their efforts towards everybody else in the family and not really taking like a day to like do whatever they like or focus on themselves, and then it just all, it's like explosive. Like, why I'm so frustrated, I'm so tired, I always have to constantly do things for everybody else all the time, and
It's never reciprocated.
yeah, and it's not reciprocated. And if I do take a moment for myself, everybody views me as being selfish for some reason. And like all that is just pent up. And that's why I think it comes from. It just like, why am I always angry? It's because you never get the opportunity to take care of you.
Yeah. Like, because right now we're daughters, there isn't as many expectations as there would be if we become wives and mothers. So it's like when that flip switches, then that's why it's like before I was never an angry person, but now because I have to do this and I like all juggle between everything.
And
Then
99%
it's like,
of the time, it's not even appreciated.
yeah, it's unappreciated. Or like if you fall short, you can be angry with yourself, and then if again they're not reciprocating, then you're angry with them. It's like it's a different factor being a wife and then a mother.
I wanted to say I like started laughing earlier when Yunada was asking the question, not because I'm insensitive to mothers. Obviously, I love my mother, but because the first thing that came to my head when you were saying that is like when my mom gets upset and I'm like, relax. Like, it's so annoying, and I know it's so annoying when we do it, but that was just the first thing that popped into my head. But I definitely agree with Khoila and Mariam. I think it's just life is really hard, and when you add the task and the responsibility of making others happy, it's bound to become overbearing sometimes. And honestly, I know sometimes, or we say it's because mothers don't take the time to focus on themselves, or, you know, they don't take time away or anything. But I feel like when you are a mother and when you are a wife, it's inevitable to have those feelings, you know, like regardless maybe of how many days you take to yourself or whatnot, just having that pressure of everybody counting on you.
We're gonna be miserable. Is that what you're saying, Milan?
I know, right?
What our future is?
No, I don't think miserable, but I think you're very naive to think that you're never gonna be overwhelmed or you're never gonna be angry at like your children and your husband. Like, that's just a very naive way to think.
I mean, we get angry every once in a while now. It's not about.
Yeah, I mean, don't be an verbally abusive mother, Khoila. We'll keep you in check. But like on the grander scale of things, because even now, as we're growing up and we take more responsibility, like I find myself when I'm in school and maybe I'm at home, I'm doing things with my mom and I'm doing homework and I'm studying for exams. Like, as I see responsibility pile up on myself and I'm still only concerned with myself for the majority of it, I get more anxious, I'm more angry, I'm more moody. So I can just imagine when you have like actual other living people depending on you, how hard it is.
Yeah. Even lack of sleep, man. If I don't sleep, I'm so much more irritable.
Dude, sleep angry? I don't even know if that's a word, but it's such a thing.
Angry.
We should make it a thing. Not just hangry.
No.
Sleep deprivation, so real.
Like, if I do not get a good amount of sleep the next day, anything anyone says to me will seem like the most annoying thing. Like, even your voice. You could be like, I love you, but your voice is just so annoying.
Please always get your sleep.
And Mariam's very vocal about that. Like, she'll be like, you're so annoying right now.
Can you just leave me alone? Let's take it back.
All right, well then.
You know what's funny? I mean, this is kind of scary, but it's funny when my aunt says this. She's always like, you know, when we talk about like marriage and stuff like that, she's like, Anta, you don't know who you're gonna marry, and you will never know until the door is closed and who's inside that house. And I'm like, this now, like, why? She always scares me. I'm like, oh my god, like that's so scary. And she makes it sound scary, but it's so funny.
You know,
basically, she's like, you'll never know a person until you live with them. But I'm like, that's just. She makes it sound scary. I'm just like, it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, we live with each other, with our siblings, with our parents, and we still learn new things every day and react differently every situation. So it's just like,
seriously. So when you guys do get angry, I guess, what do you guys actually do? Like, either to make up or move on?
So, like, let's say we did get angry.
Like, me and you, if you and I got into a fight.
Which we do. Me and Khoila give each other timeouts.
Yeah, so that's what we do.
but how do you guys like get over the anger after you upset each other?
We just realized whatever we were arguing about was dumb. Like, it's literally just stepping. Sometimes when you're in a situation, you don't realize how dumb that situation is until you take a couple of steps back and you're like, did I really just sit there and argue with if we were going to put T first or like what font we were going to use? Like, is that really what I was sitting there and arguing about? Like, you need to take a moment back out to like realize what you were arguing with wasn't worth a thing.
The last fight.
How about if you're the person that caused the anger to someone else? Like, what
Then
do
you apologize. That's what
You didn't apologize to me last time.
That's because it was your fault, Hoyla.
It was your fault.
Can we explain? Is this a modern skeptics kind of argument?
Settle down.
No, so we were trying to edit the CAC wars, okay? And
Wait,
it was
I feel like,
towards
no,
the end.
you need to put it into context. You
Let
guys.
me tell the story.
We were editing the CAC wars all day. All
night.
All day and all night. But I'm saying it started, let's say we started at 12 o'clock editing, 12 p.m., right? All day editing. It's 8 a.m. the next morning. The next morning, okay? All that time we were together editing this video. And at 8 a.m. the next morning, we had enough of each other. Like, we had no sleep. We were like,
that was bad.
with you.
Yeah, that was bad. So we got into an argument, but literally Mariam gave us a timeout, so she sat on one side and was doing her thing. I sat by myself. And then Mariam felt bad, so she didn't apologize. She said it in a way, are you gonna come help me? Like,
that is
by the way, in all of this, so I had to leave earlier, so I left like at 4 a.m. Okay, and because I'm the person who I am, I'm like, you guys better Zoom me, and I want to watch everything you guys are doing. So as Khawaila and Mariam are sitting in front of the computer arguing, I'm on the phone and watching Mariam do her thing on Zoom, and I'm like, this is really awkward. And I think I was on the phone, so like, I don't know. Did you give me to Mariam? I was such an awkward. I'm like, what do I do? Do I hang up now?
No.
I'm like, they're arguing, and I'm just like in the middle on the phone, like being tossed around, like you handle Inara.
Inara's like that child when parents are arguing, just standing there, like, what to do.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay.
But it's different.
I feel like it's important to tell people that if you haven't watched our CAC Wars video, now you should watch it and see what all the stress and arguing was about.
But like, for me and Betty, we've like known each other forever. So like, I knew she didn't have to apologize to know like her asking me to come help because she didn't know how to do something was her way.
I knew how to do. I asked about the dumbest thing. I was like, Hoyla, how do you turn the volume up? Like something.
And Mariam does our editing all the time, so she clearly knew.
No, and I knew she knew. I knew she knew, but I wanted to like just move on from it. I'm like, okay, I'm back. Like, grumpy face, like, okay, I'm back.
There are like tells to know when you're close to people, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think also allow that person. So like, if someone feels like they're in the wrong and they're coming back that way, that maybe they don't necessarily have to say, I'm sorry, I know I was being whatever, but be gracious and accepting of the fact that they were willing to come back and kind of like try and reach their hand out and better, make the situation better.
I think that's important in relationships, like when the other person is basically inviting you to be like forgiven and to like move past that. It's important for the other person to accept, because I remember I was reading this like book on marriage, and they were saying like when the other person is inviting you to like basically move on from that argument or to like ease the situation, and marriages that fail are people who kind of avoid those and don't pick up on they don't take the other person's hand and like follow through with it. So people who like to be stubborn and like hold grudges, those are the type of marriages that fail. But the other person who sees this like open doors and opportunity to make up, they take it. That's a healthier marriage. So what you guys did there, guys, is a perfect example of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, and also I think something else that's really important when you're the person that was like wronged or like someone else made you angry, is that once you have forgiven, to just get over it. Like, don't constantly mention it. Don't constantly have it on your mind, because that's just that there's no good that comes from that.
Don't put it in the back of your head for ammo for next time.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't count that as you forgiving that person though.
But do you necessarily have to forget? Like,
no.
I feel like we forget, but do you ever forget?
I don't think you have to forget like the situation never happened, but like if Khawaila has done something to upset me and I've forgiven her for it, it definitely shouldn't be something that I use against her anymore. Mm-hmm. Like if I've already voiced it and I've supposedly gotten over it, I don't think it's fair for me to refer back to that in future arguments or like make her feel bad.
Unless it's something that she does that's repetitive.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly and that you need to address it. But when you even address it, it shouldn't be like in the heat of an argument where you're like, well, you know what, and you ... and you list out everything. no, it should be addressed when everybody's calm, because that way everybody's thinking about it with a clear head.
And your intention is
To
taking
fix it.
into consideration, exactly, like
Yeah.
your intention is to be good and you're caring about this person versus trying to use it when they're vulnerable or to make them feel worse about a situation.
I also want to add, when I was listening to a lecture, it was actually really interesting. They were like, Islamic scholars say that when, let's say you did something and it was your fault for like acting out and like you acted on your anger, one, you should obviously ask that person to apologize, like you apologize to that person, but also like make dua for that person. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like make dua for them, for like good dua, guys, not bad dua. So dua for that person. And then also make dua to Allah to give you strength to control your anger. And third, donate on their behalf. So like donate money on their behalf.
Oh, that's
really
like
Love for that person. That's
That's like
Maybe.
taking an extra step.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Like that's
you will
something.
never be angry at that person again if you have to do all that.
If it hurts your wallet,
You'll think twice next time.
you're gonna meet the happiest people
It's
on
not
earth.
even worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another episode of To Whom It May Concern. We love to hear what you guys have to say, the feedback that you have on our episodes. So please feel free to reach out. If you don't already, you can follow us and like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Modern Skeps. And if you ever want to have a conversation with us or have any ideas for any new episodes, you can email us at modernskeptics@gmail.com. We post our full-length episodes on the podcast apps and on YouTube. So however you want to watch The Modern Skeptics, you're free to do so. If you know people that aren't watching The Modern Skeptics, then make sure you're telling them to watch The Modern Skeptics. We drop our episodes every Tuesday morning, so make sure you continue to tune in with us. Thank you. Sincerely, The Modern Skeptics. P.S. It's wise to direct your anger towards problems, not people.